everyone's going to be a part of Web3. Every single artist, every single musician, every single entertainer, every single institution, company, whatever you do out there, if you are of service, you will be essentially part of Web3, and you're going to start having to have this two-way conversation with the people that are buying your goods, listening to your music, reading your books, being part of your culture, whatever it might be, buying your clothes, whatever it is. The conversation is going to start opening up.
Matt, what's good? How you feeling?
Feeling great. Another day in the NFT space.
That's right. Well, today we have a very special guest, Mr. Steve Aoki. You may have seen him live in his element, turning up at a club near you. But beyond that, he's definitely got lots of different layers to his personality and to his NFT projects. What stood out to you? Tell us a little more about him.
Yeah, man. He's he's one of the highest grossing DJ producers in the world. He's a road warrior who plays hundreds of shows per year. And, I've known him for years, and he's always had his hands in so many different fields, from fashion to comics to TV, film. He's just always been this cultural omnivore, and what's so cool is I think with NFTs, he's found a way to really tie all of these different interest areas together. He's been involved with a few different NFT projects. He recently launched his Aokiverse project, which I think kind of serves as the nexus and the epicenter for bringing all of these different fields, interest areas, and communities into play in one core community. So really excited to see how he builds that. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, no, I love it. And I mean, I think he's done a good job at being kind of a student of the game, experimenting, doing a series of drops. He's done collabs with incredible artists, did a cool Neon Future collab with Tom Bilyeu and Masij Kuchera. And beyond that, I do think Aokiverse really does lay a great precedent for how musicians can kind of create this Web3 fan club of sorts, right? I think a lot of his lessons learned, he really funneled into Aokiverse and really helped set a high bar as far as what utility in a project could look like. So I think for people that hold Aokiverse and one of the different NFTs, they're able to get pre-sale access to other NFTs, free tour tickets to hundreds of dates worldwide, digital collectibles, physical collectibles. The list goes on. I think exclusive events just for Aokiverse holders. I think this is fascinating. I think we dive into the music industry specifically and how a lot of the current music industry, the economics are kind of broken, but how Web3 and NFTs can present a new paradigm, a more prosperous model for artists and fans. So I think we peel back a lot of different layers in this episode, are able to dive deep into a lot of his different projects and his outlook on the future of the space. So really enjoyed it. If you haven't already, before we do jump in, do want to encourage you to check out our newsletter, nftnow.com. Once a week, we distill everything that's happening in the NFT world into digestible, action-packed digest. So be sure to subscribe and sign up for that if you haven't already at nftnow.com. But without any further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. Steve Aoki.
Steve, what's good, man? So happy to have you on the NFT Now podcast.
Yeah, what's up?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Exciting time in the space.
Oh yeah, it's always exciting. It's always, something happening. It's very active.
Totally.
It has to be the most, it's definitely the most vibrant, non-physical community. Cause I have a community that I play to all the time. My community is my shows, right? So my crowds are just but this is definitely the closest to that, outside of anything else, any other industry, any other thing I'm part of. It's just so active, so many brilliant people involved. It's like battle of innovation.
I feel it.
It's innovation, community, engagement, and you have to think. You have to constantly think, keep moving forward. You can't just be oh, great idea, execute. No, you got to execute and then execute on the execution and then execute on that execution.
I feel you, man. Well, you and I have known each other for years. We go back, and I remember chatting crypto with you, years ago, and you getting involved there in that space. And so, for those who may not know, just tell us a little bit about your journey into NFTs, and how you got really involved with it.
Yeah, so I got into crypto 5-6 years ago. So I was already a like early adopter, and I wouldn't even say early. I mean, I was like mid-level, in the stages of like crypto, but been in it for a minute, and NFTs, I got into it in like summer 2020, through my friend Blau, who was like Blau was already doing it. He was like kind of experimenting, having fun with it, and he hit me up. He's like, you gotta like do an NFT. I think it's like, I think it's right up your alley, because I think that's one thing that Justin and I share. It's like, just like trying out things, when it's a bit risky or weird, or just like a little bit, I guess, early, whatever you want to call that. But I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And Blau and Henry RAC, they're part of the same management team company. So I was hearing what RAC was doing with this cassette tape NFT. And I'm like, okay, let's get the gears turning, ball rolling. Took a little slow start. The first step was trying to find a digital artist to work with, and then it was perfect. So it was during COVID. I was making all kinds of just weird music, all over the place, having fun. I was really into mindfulness, so I was like making a lot of meditation music. I was like really just like, I'll just put it this way: when I'm playing live shows, I'm informed by that. So I end up making bangers, right? When I'm like out there on the road, I'm like listening to what's like, what is the currency of culture? What's happening? What's on the radio? What's this, or what are people listening to that kind of fit the demo that I play to? So I'll make records with different artists to like do that. When I'm at home, it's a whole different thing. I'm in a completely different headspace. So it's actually a great time for me to experiment musically, and this is a perfect lane for me to do, is in this new lane of NFTs. And it took about 8 months to get there, but we finally did our first drop February 2021, with Anthony Disco as the rookie drop for me. I remember I was on Clubhouse with Froke. I think,
Yeah,
Matt, you
I
were
remember
in
that
that
room.
chat. Uh, yeah, it was like
It was
10,000 people in
nuts.
the room. It
It was
was
one of the
pretty
biggest
like
ones for
live.
NFTs on Clubhouse, you know?
Yeah, it was like, it felt so good. I remember Jake Paul like popped in the room, like a couple other, influential people were in there. Made a really big, I just made a big disruptive like hello to the space, and it like shocked my system and my whole team. And the shock was exactly what was so exciting, like what can happen with this. And now I understood at that moment how important community was, how important these conversations are that's happening on, at that point, Clubhouse. Then now is Twitter Spaces, you know. Um, but over the course of from February 2021 till end of the year, I mean, I did a number of drops. And I started really understanding what community means, what utility means, how to like work with each other, and like build with different creators, build with digital artists, build with physical artists, uh, build with musicians and DJs. Actually, quite a lot of DJs are in the space, so that also makes a warm kind of entrance too, because a lot of my DJ community is like already like, we're all about what this looks like, what this feels like, how we can maneuver in the space. And we haven't even really touched on our own music, really. Like, I did a drop with Blau. Um, after that one, it was like probably summer of 2021. We did a 101 club record. So that was the first NFT. A DAO bought it, and that was really cool to understand the structure of DAOs, what that means. Um, all of this culminating, all these different ideas, from like Pox pages to poets to the hundreds atom bomb squad and their fidgetals, and like the generative art from here, and what art blocks was doing in the PFP world, and all, like, it just, the culmination of all that was what is a foundation that was growing and brewing to what is now Aokiverse. It's kind of like, taking little bits of VFriends community development to, Atom Bomb Squad to like, all these different worlds. We're going, before I even drop a PFP, I want to build the base because I'm so deep in this space and I'm so connected outside the space that, I know we're jumping ahead here, but Aokiverse is all about being in the center of all of it and trying to connect everyone that's along for the ride to all the access, all the opportunities that I can share. I could break if I could cut the bread that gets offered to me and share it with my membership community, share it with everyone. That's ideal. So whenever that's possible, that's what it's made for, and I'm, in the NFT land and in the real world, right? If you could bring both of that in. So that's why I look at Aokiverse less of a fan club and more of a social membership of all things in these worlds, I totally digress there, Matt, but
That's what you're here for, man. We're interviewing you. Um, in that vein, man, I think like it's great to see how you were experimenting with different drops. You were a student of the space, passionate, curious, and you really were able to put a lot of these different learnings and inspirations into Aokiverse. If you could just really kind of set the stage on a deeper level, like I personally love a lot of the utility you brought forth with Aokiverse, but kind of what is the vision for Aokiverse? What does the roadmap look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Aokiverse, as I'm saying, is very much a social membership community. So, and it's got multiple layers. So on the NFT side, you have different, like, we have different curations, whether it's like our own PFPs or our own NFTs, whether it's like partners that we work with and the allow list that we work with partners. Like, for example, we have Bape did a drop, Bapeverse, and they're our friends. So we brought them into the Aokiverse and did allow list for the community. Our good friend Boy George did a drop, so we brought them in. So there's a lot of that kind of activity that comes in. We're going to be dropping at PFP. So we're thinking it speaks to all people that are obviously in NFT. This is for crypto savvy individuals. This is for, it's not just about the fans. It's about people that see what's happening in our world, in the world that I'm involved in or partnered with, and be like, oh yeah, I want to jump in there. I love what Aoki and his team are doing with all these different partners, and you get a piece of, not a piece of it, but you get the access to all that. And then the real world is something that we could deliver right away because I'm playing so many shows. And I love seeing the Aokiverse signs, like in Melbourne and at Ultra. There's like this group of people holding up the Aokiverse logo, donning that, and it's so cool to see that. Saw that in Miami. I saw that even in Lollapalooza, with people wearing Character X homemade T-shirts. It's that kind of like, because we did do activation there early, bringing all the NFT holders to Lollapalooza. So that was kind of like the early incubation of what Aokiverse looked like, and it's happening now. The rollout is happening right away, which is exciting, because that's one other thing that we wanted to do with the Aokiverse is do a rollout that drops immediately. And I think what's exciting for me too is that actually 2 days from now, Wednesday, I'm doing the very first Aokiverse exclusive show that's token gated for all the passport holders. So you own a passport into the Aokiverse, you can come to the show, which is obviously timed and synced with NFTLA. So all people that are coming to NFTLA that are part of the Aokiverse, they get to come see a special show. And really inspired by Gala Games and what they are doing for their community. I just want to shout them out because I think what they're doing is awesome. I performed at their Galaverse for their community. They did a show in the iconic forum, holds over 20,000 people. They went in there and they built their own world. They built their own, like, just like you enter into their own space, probably spent a lot of money to do this. I remember watching Kings of Leon with 200 other people in a space that holds 20,000 people. How cool and exclusive is that? Like Kings of Leon, her, I played, Blau played. It was like a really special, intimate thing, saying kind of like, fuck you, like we're gonna fucking take the biggest venue and make it our own space for only 200, 300 people. That gave me so much like heart. So when I played on that stage, it's not like I'm like, oh man, there's not like a million people here. I was excited to play for the 200 for the Galaverse. And that's exactly how I feel about playing at the Aokiverse show. Like, I don't care if there's 5 people. I don't care if there's 500, or I don't even care about the number, because for me, it's like, these are the citizens of the Aokiverse passports holders. You know what I mean? So it's different feeling to me. So like really, really excited for the first Aokiverse show. If you don't have the passport, all you got to do is get an Aokiverse credit on secondary. I think it's like 0.1 ETH or less, and you can get yourself a passport. You mint the passport from the credit, and you'll be a level 1. Level 4, level 2 is 4 credits, and then it goes up 1, 4. Level 3 is 16. Level 4 is 64. Level 5 is 256, and level 6 is 1024. And since we launched just not that long ago, there's already a level 6, and there's already 4
Wow.
level 5. So there's people that really care about growing their
I love
passport.
that.
And that's the beauty of this thing, is that as we grow it, you get different perks, you get different, just like similar to, I almost look at it like an analogy. It's similar to like a Soho House meets like a airline club. You get more perks, right? Best part about it is it's Web3. You build it up and you're done with it, you sell it. You can't sell your Soho House membership. You can't sell your American Airlines concierge key. You build it up and you have to use it, or you don't use it. That's why I love Web3. That's a major difference.
I love that. One thing that's really interesting, Steve, I was really excited to see you enter the space, because having known you as long as I have, I know how many different interest areas you have. Like, you are across like all the genres in music. You are in fashion, you're in streetwear, you're in anime, you're in TV film. Like, you have always been like, just like, you've always like worn so many different hats and had so many different areas of interest. And to be able to kind of bring them all together, like kind of under one roof. It seems like Aokiverse is kind of like that it's like the epicenter of like the Aoki universe. That's, the name makes a lot of sense there.
Yes,
But
yeah.
I'd love to hear a bit more about how you sort of see those different interest areas all playing into this sort of like this club that you've essentially built, this community that you've built, and how you bring all those different pieces of yourself to them.
Absolutely. No, that's like the point, is that I'm involved in so many different industries, and to be able to bring that access to other people. And it's like, I've talked about this before, but it's like doing a DJ set. I want to give the people what they want. So when I play, I'm playing my hits. I'm playing my records that people know, right? They want to hear Pursuit of Happiness, they're going to get it. You want to hear Boneless, they're going to get it. I'm going to give them what they want, but I also want to give them what they won't expect. It's a very similar kind of concept to having a great experience. So when you go see a show, you want to see certain things that you expect to see, but you also want to experience things that you would be like, whoa, I never expected that. And that disrupts that flow, that gives you something more, that gives you a memory that you feel. And you got to constantly, give them something that they're looking for, and then challenge them a bit. Give them something that they might not understand, but I'll offer it to you. And that's the kind of thing, is like, since I'm involved in so many different worlds, I'm trying to take a piece of all these different things and then bring it back to the table. I'm like, guys, let's cut up this bread and let's all share it. You know what I mean? Like, let's do something, you might not get it, but it's there for you. It's airdropped to you. Or you have the allow list for this, or if you have the access to go check this out, or I'm working with these wonderful people and they're doing something really great. Here's an offering for you that's exclusive to you. So it's exciting to be able to do that because I mean, we do this already with our friends. Whenever we have like an incredible experience that we feel, we share with our friends like, yo, come on for the ride. Like we bring our friends and we rally and we just have fun, right? Now it's like my friend group is Aokiverse. That's why I don't think about it as a fan club. I think about it as like, this is like our social circle, and if you have even like, I get even this much of what we're doing. If there's someone's like, I get this much, and I like this much, that's all you need, because I'm going to give you that and hopefully more, And the other thing that's important, I think, with Web3, with community building in NFTs, is this constant two-way conversation, right? It's like that never really happened before. Like when you think about a fan and an artist, the artist just gives output, and the fan's like, yes, thank you. The fan could say some stuff back, but the artist isn't really going to do what the fans say, right? And I'm not saying that I'm going to change my music for the community, or I'm going to change my creativity for the community, but I'm definitely listening, and I'm definitely restructuring, or like going, well, I have my vision for this. This is the vision, but I want to make sure that, like, hey guys, we're together. Let's roll together. Oh, you're not feeling it? Okay, well, let's try something different. It's a different level of conversation. And I think artists, as they get more into Web3, because everyone's going to be a part of Web3. Every single artist, every single musician, every single entertainer, every single institution, company, whatever you do out there, if you are of service, you will be essentially part of Web3, and you're going to start having to have this two-way conversation with the people that are buying your goods, listening to your music, reading your books, being part of your culture, whatever it might be, buying your clothes, whatever it is. The conversation is going to start opening up.
Preaching to the choir on that one, man. Fully aligned. I think to take it a step further, then, I mean, within music specifically, I mean, part of what's so special about what you just said, and the fact that lots more artists and fans will be leaning into Web3, is that it presents a bit of a new economic paradigm and model for prosperity for both artists and fans, right? I think the music industry historically, or with streaming and whatnot, the economics are so low, it makes it very hard for there to be a middle class in music. You're either like a top 1% musician creating the vast majority of revenue in the music industry, or you're kind of struggling to make ends meet. So I'm curious, from your perspective, how do you think that the music industry is broken? And then more importantly, how do you think NFTs and Web3 can help fix it?
I think exactly what you said is already displays how it works, because that's exactly how it works. And if you're an artist and you're trying to put music out, you can't depend on your streaming income, period. And you might have some publishing revenue come in, but that's if the song sinks. There's like certain things that are like, those are like champagne, like crack the champagne open. We just got to sink. It just doesn't happen so often. So the music model for anyone that's coming up in the game, you have to find another level of income to be able to support yourself, which is exactly what I did with DJing. Like before I was DJing, I was in bands. Forget about making music when I was in a band. At some point, as much as I loved playing in the bands I played, I toured across the US 14 times by the time I was 21. So I definitely hit the road hard. I definitely promoted my music, but there is no real money that was made from these tours, from these shows. We made more money on selling t-shirts, and that's not music, right? That's a secondary income. So when I came into DJing and I started producing electronic music, without DJing, I wouldn't have been able to survive as a music artist, which is why I hung up the guitar and I hung up the instrument, and I decided I'm going to wear a different hat and really focus on my label and support artists, and also DJ and produce electronic music on a solo basis. But that's a longer story. But in either way, it's not a sustainable infrastructure for young artists to be able to survive just on music. It's like you said, it is a 1%, less than that artists can actually survive on their streams, and the rest of them are, are struggling. So this is where NFTs definitely take a different stance, and NFTs is all about valuing art with a marketplace, valuing art through what the market dictates what that art is valued at, right? So now, I mean, it's clear. I think we can all say music is art. It's an experience, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, just like the same way that we look at a piece. No one could deny that music is art. And in this case, this is where artists can now utilize that same language, the same conversation, and actually apply that and make certain things. I think the best way for me to explain it was I was talking to someone at the Aokiverse. We're talking about music NFTs, and I asked her, "What's your favorite artist?" And she's like, "Kendrick Lamar." I'm like, "Is there a specific album that changed your life about it? Like, wouldn't you want? Wouldn't it be cool if Kendrick did a piece where this album touched you in a certain way?" And he's like, "I'm going to make an NFT around this album, and it's going to be numbered to whatever number he decides, and it has a scarcity to it, and it has a way that it can be purchased or be part of the culture of NFTs. Wouldn't you want to potentially buy that piece and own that piece and have that and cherish that?" And it's I think that's where it's like it clicks. It's like the same reason why we buy an art piece that makes us feel a certain way. This is something we buy something that has a real value to the market. And once again, it's always about letting the market dictate what that value is, right? So going into that, but
No, love that. I think those are great points, Steve. And, it's interesting. You mentioned how, Blau was the one who brought you into NFTs. He's also the one who brought me into NFTs. He's been a good friend for a while as well. And, obviously a pioneer in the space. And I remember even back 2017, 2018, doing panels with Henry, RAC, back at South by on music and blockchain. And, since you're so ingrained in the space, I'm curious to hear your perspective too. Why do you think so many of the early adopters in NFTs, Web3, in the music space have come from the dance and electronic music community?
It's an interesting one because I definitely took note about that early on. Like, why are there so many DJs?
Same.
It's so interesting. Out of all the different genres, just I look left and look right, and I'm just like, wow, there's so many DJs buying different NFTs or creating different NFTs. I think, so a DJ. Let's just talk about what a DJ does, right? I'm not talking about producers. I'm talking about just DJs. DJs, they have to know what's popping. They have to know, when they go in the room, right? When they're about to DJ, they already have their records ready because they already did the research. They're like, this is what the culture responds to. So you have to kind of know because you have to speak to them without speaking to them, right? You have to speak to the crowd through your music. So you have to understand culture. You have to understand also, where are we going next? So, I mean, I think all DJs are a bit of futurists. We're trained to be futurists because that's what we do. If there's a DJ that doesn't it goes over everyone's heads, it's either they're speaking too far in the future or they're speaking in the past, right? It's you gotta a great DJ is gonna lure you in, this is me, yes, this is me, and then delight you with something that you would never expect, that bring you into the next stage of where we're going, right? So I think just on the basis of that alone, right? And now we talk about music producers, musicians, artists. We have to be futurists. We don't have a choice. If we want to survive, if we want to be relevant, we have to put out music that is going to help guide where the culture is going. And the ones that do it best are the ones that are the most successful. So I feel like we're all trained to think ahead, to try to be early, to think about what is coming next and act on it and execute on it. And if you're a producer, you're executing on it. If you're successful at putting out records, you're successful at executing on what the future looks like, which is essentially what NFTs is all about. We're setting up for what's going to become very normalized. It's going to become very common for people to use smart contracts to be able to do business in all aspects of life. NFTs is just a word that it's a catchword, but really it's technology and innovating how we do business, how we buy, sell, and trade whatever service that we're going to be doing. It's all going to be part of some level of smart contract in the future.
Yeah, no, totally, man. I mean, in that vein, I'm curious. I mean, do you think 1 to 2 years from now, like the average musician and fan will be engaging with NFTs, or like hot take predictions? Like, what do you think the timeline of adoption looks like here?
Yeah, it's a tough one because things move rapidly, but at the same time, some stuff moves slowly. You know, there's certain things that like innovate very quickly inside of our little world because it's still small, but at the same time, we're still small, right? We're like moving very fast within our space, and it is growing and expanding as it is, like especially in the entertainment side of things, the musician side of things, as we're talking about, like who are involved and who is really in it. The crypto savvy, anyone that's crypto savvy is already understanding how NFTs work or how it's going to relate to their lives. You know, how it identifies with them, how they communicate through NFTs, because that's essentially what we're doing. We're communicating through NFTs. Now, how soon will it become totally normalized? It's a tough question to answer. To say a year, it could quite possibly be in 2023 of April that a large part of us that are savvy with social media, savvy with crypto. I think those two worlds. If we're savvy in the metaverse, I think it's a very easy onboard, right? For people that just don't touch this stuff, I mean, you know, that's just how it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that actually don't use social media, period. But there's also billions and billions of people that do, and billions of people that identify through social media or their social imprint on the world. Their digital imprint on the world has a real significance to who they are. Those are going to be the next onboarded people, because once they understand that Web3 is about ownership and Web2 is about playing in another person's house, where Web3, you're going to be playing in your own house or in someone else's house with your own clothes, not someone else's, right? When people start understanding that they own it as they enter in to the world, how they identify the digital imprint of themselves, then once that crosses over in culture, we're going to see a major shift.
I love that. I love that. Fully agreed. Steve, it's been really interesting, just watching the progression and your evolution in the space, those early Nifty Gateway drops, some of your collaborations with Tom Bilyeu, the Neon Future partnership, all the way to like co-curating the Sotheby's auction with People Pleaser, and now most recently Aokiverse. I'm curious to hear, kind of like looking back on the past year, like what have been sort of some of the biggest lessons you've learned from all of these different experiences?
You have to move very quickly. You have to stay on top of the trends. You have thank God I have just an incredible team that keeps me updated as I'm like working on all my other stuff. It's about being nimble and maneuvering and I just in general, just being on top of what's happening. Things move much more faster and they rapidly change than any other industry, any other community that I've ever been a part of. And it's a constant evolving, adaptable technology. It's just constantly moving. And now since I have the Aokiverse, we take that into action and we move forward with that. So, it's interesting. Like the time that I've been in, learning about NFTs is summer 2020. We're almost going to hit summer 2022. So we're about, almost 2 years into NFTs. I feel like I've learned so much, but at the same time, I'm at 2% of where we're going to, like what I know, right? I'm very much a student. I'm very much a student of the space. But I feel like I've amassed not just a lot of knowledge, but like incredible friendships, like incredible network around the world. Just meeting so many people that are doing so many different interesting things in Web3, sharing that information like it's one like amazing potluck where we're just sitting together and sharing like all the different recipes and all the different ways that we can help grow each other, because the community is so small that we all need to work together, right? It's not like we're all are in our own little niches. Like in music, it can happen like that. It's like so big and broad that you have your own niches and you're like, oh, I gotta like keep this and hide this before other people will take it. It's just different. We all kind of like share everything. Like, oh, you're working on that? That's really cool. Like, oh, like love to use that same concept. Oh yeah, no problem. And then do this. I'm like, oh, but like that, what you're doing over there is actually gonna like really beneficial for my community. Great, let's share it. And that's really going back to Aokiverse. That's really kind of like one of the fruitful seeds that helped plant what Aokiverse meant, because just this incredible network of incredible projects and communities that has embraced me or like supported me through 2021 was a big part of why we were even able to do what we were able to do, which is when we did launch, we shared like 24 communities that we allow listed into the Aokiverse, and to me, they're all blue chips. They're all sustainable. They think about the long road ahead, and we're constantly working together to find out how to better the space, make it more inclusive, and more
For
exciting.
sure. No, I love that. And, I know, Steve, you also have so many friends in, in the music industry across so many different areas. And I'm sure that as you really entered NFTs, probably a lot of them were asking you, how do I get involved with this? Like what's it, I know I was receiving that when I was getting in NFTs too. And like, I'm curious, like what is some of the advice that you have for example, like other musicians who are kind of evaluating different ways on engaging with the space?
Yeah, I mean, I tell them to be careful, because it's just, it's not like dropping a record. It's not like dropping a record and you move on to the next record. You have people that are that rely on what you're putting out to the space. They need to understand what community means. They need to understand that engagement of this two-way conversation, which is it's new. It's new for a lot of artists to do that. I mean, what we do as artists is we drop music and fans like it or they don't like it. And the fans that do like it, they ride with you, right? It's different. It's just like, I try to say it to them. It's like, you do want to treat it like a fan club, but it's much more than that. It's much deeper than that. These fans, they become, it's more of your social circle. And how do you talk to your social circle? What do you do to like bring them into the fold in a real way that makes them feel really involved? It's just like me, like when I think about like different communities that I want to be a part of or I'm associated with, I want to be, I mean, I am a fan of, like, let's say, for example, we talk about Bape because, we were working with them, partnering with them. I'm a fan of Bape and I wear their clothes and I love what they're all about. And I've done collaborations with them. But I'm also part of the social circle, right? So I really try to position that the most.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that. And I think when it comes to like your community, I mean, it's been amazing how you've been able to bring them together, united through the Aokiverse. I'm curious, obviously it's been able to generate a lot of revenue. Like, how do you plan to really reinvest that to just give back to your community and just create these amazing experiences for them?
That's exactly what we're doing right now. Is we got the Aokiverse show that's happening on Wednesday. There'll be other drops that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a CloneX, a vial drop through the different levels. There's going to be a lot of different kind of things that we'll be doing. We obviously hired a lot more people involved in the Aokiverse to be able to handle all these new different ways to how we have to make sure things are token gated, things are different ways, or that the communication's fluid. I mean, we're learning, growing, and developing. And but the great thing is we're doing drops. We're being able to give back to the community fairly quickly. I mean, I think less than 2 weeks after we launched the passports, we were able to get an allow list for the Boy George drop. And it's, it hasn't been that much longer, and we're going to be doing the very first Aokiverse exclusive concert, so as on top of that, all the different shows. And I'm excited to see what the level 5 and level 6, what we're going to be doing with them, because there's exclusive rewards and perks there that are, obviously stuff that I can't give to everyone else. So level 6 is a song, that person is going to be in the studio with me, or we're going to make a record together. So there's a lot of different things that we're going to be developing and building out.
And Steve, in addition to like all of your own projects, you've also amassed like quite the NFT collection yourself. Like, what are some of your favorite pieces, and like what have you learned from trading in NFTs?
I'm a big I'm a big bag holder. I don't sell too much. I definitely don't call myself a trader. I do sell because I definitely need to think more about getting my cost basis back, because when I go in, I tend to sweep floors and on projects, and I just, like, the thing goes up, the thing goes down, you know how it works. It goes down, and I like don't sell. So I just keep holding. So, I'm in it for the long run, at the end of the day. Of course, I'm going to start thinking more about cost basis, making sure I get that back. But, I'm obviously Bored Apes. I have 10 Bored Apes under 10 Bored Apes, over 11 Mutant Apes. I got 3 CryptoPunks. I got some doodles. I think I got like 10 doodles. I love Clone X. Like, I feel like there's like those ones. Dead Fellows is great. I love Wisby. I love, I love what the Art Blocks world's a whole different world as well. What Art Blocks is all about is also very new to me as well, but I'm learning about that. And, I got myself, a piece of art from there. Supporting my guy, Thank You X. There's a lot of friends in this space too, physical artists that are doing digital art, and doing well, like Thank You X. Yeah, I mean, kind of go across the board.
Sick. I love it. Are there any like specific rising projects or rising creators or artists that have caught your attention recently?
Yeah. The next ones. This is the one that's like people, I'm sure, really want to hear too.
That alpha, they want that Aoki alpha.
Well, you know what? We will be doing another allow list that's coming up in the Aokiverse, but I don't want to give it away yet. It's a bit too early. Because it's like the one thing that we do with the Aokiverse is it's like you have to vet what's going on. You have to make sure that, like, at the very least, you do the best due diligence that you can. I always think about the creators, and sometimes I ape into things without really looking into the creators and the founders, because I just see like all this discussion or people jumping in on something. I'm like, okay, I got to get a little piece of this. I get that FOMO action. But if I could give advice to anyone, I'm like, you have to find out who these creators are the best you can, and if they have a good reputation. And a lot of them are anon, so it's like you don't know anything about them, so it's a bit dangerous. But if you know that they're in it for the long game, if you know that they have a very large NFT collection and they care about the future of NFTs, they speak about that constantly, and they do a lot in the space, I feel safe. I'd rather be investing in people like that. So, you know what they say, invest in people, not in companies, right? So I think that's like sometimes the art can lure you into something where you're like, well, it looks good, and then all of a sudden it just rugs. So it's just just try to do your research, you know, and do your research on the people doing it, and if they have the right intentions, things go up, and definitely things go down. That's the nature of how it works. When things go down, doesn't mean it's rugging either. You know, it's just sometimes you write it out. And I'm writing with some projects that are I bought at the top, and I'm actually like, I've seen it online. People will go, Aoki always buys at the top, and I've seen it online. And you know what? I'm a believer in some of these projects, so I don't sell even when it's like damn near at the bottom. I'm like, well, I believe in these guys or these women or these men or what's happening. I believe that, you know, they're going to do something. You just got to write it, you know, and, you know, don't panic. Panic buying and panic selling is dangerous. Take 5 deep breaths before you do something. Before buying an NFT.
I feel you, man. As someone who errs on the side of hodling, I'm very much in the same boat. You know, just if you have that conviction,
Yeah.
you know, take those deep breaths and wait till the market, you know, the pendulum always swings back, almost.
and
always.
then keep on waiting.
Never
Keep
risk
on waiting.
money. Never risk money. Never risk money that you're not
100%.
willing to lose.
Yep.
That's important. You know, sometimes I go a little bit too crazy because I get like so excited, but you know, and some like I'm just like, please, like something's got to happen to this thing because I put so much into it. But you learn, you live and you learn, right? So, and I love it, and I'm in it. I'm here to stay for a very long time. Like, and I've said this to so many people. We're in preseason. We haven't even started playing the game yet. You know, we're not even inning 1. This is preseason. Wait till things get started.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like we're on, you know, when MySpace started for like social media, that was like preseason. Facebook was really like inning 1, right? So I think we're at the MySpace stage of the future of where NFTs are going, you know, and like what the NFT world looks like.
1,000%. You know, you look at like the market penetration right now, it's still so early. And even though so much has happened,
Absolutely.
there's still so much further to go. So I love it. Well,
Yeah.
you know, as we bring things to a close, Steve, just we wanted to give you a chance to speak to some of the projects you have coming up, what's coming down the pipeline. I know there's a lot that you can speak about. I know there's a lot you can't. So why don't we just give a rundown of what's coming up that you can?
Well, Aokiverse is in full steam. If you're out there, you're interested, get yourself a credit. Go to a0k1verse.xyz. Get all your information there. It's Aoki. Just take out the O and the I. 0 and 1 in the vowels. Aokiverse.xyz. Get yourself a credit. Then you can mint it for a passport. The credits burn. It's deflationary, so like eventually all the credits will be gone if people burn them all. And join Aokiverse. I also started a marketplace with Todd McFarlane, and it's called Odd Key, which is basically both of our names combined, chopping off the top. Todd, Odd, and Key, Aoki. And we just revealed Aoki, the 1%, the rare airdrop. So we gave them away for free. It's built on the Solana blockchain, and you know, I love that. You know, I'm in both worlds. I think with Odd Key, it makes sense that it's on Solana because this is about onboarding a lot of people that don't want to pay all these fees, right? That's like it's different. Like in this marketplace, we want to have art and NFTs at a very, very low price, you know, so it's a different kind of format and structure. And the Aoki NFTs are out there, so check them out. It's art that Todd McFarlane did of his Spawn, and my hair, and all the rarities and all that fun stuff is on Aoki.com. So you guys can find out more, just join the Discord. But we're going to be launching the marketplace very, very soon, looking at the end of next month. And yeah, that's going to be exciting. That marketplace launch will be exciting. And it's very similar. Let me explain it. It's like the philosophy of what Todd has done with Image Comics for 30 years. He just said 30 years for Image Comics. So he understands what it's like to build a community in the comic book world, and what he's done as leaving Marvel and creating his own independent comic book company and building it to where it's at right now is phenomenal. They're taking that same philosophy that Todd's done for 30 years of his life, and the same philosophy that I've been doing for Dimmock Records, fully independent company, been around for 26 years, put out like 3,000 releases, signed Chainsmokers' first releases, early Zed releases, a ton of other EDM electronic acts. Before that, rock bands, all different kinds of artists, taking that same community and the same philosophy and bringing that in, mashing it up with Todd McFarlane's, his philosophy. And that's the birth of what Aoki Marketplace is going to be. So very exciting for that. Aokiverse, really excited about all the different people that are part of it. Hope to see a lot of everyone that's part of the Aokiverse at my show.
Well, it's great to see all the progress and momentum, and I have no signs of slowing down. Quite the contrary, man. So keep up the good work, bro.
God, we're just
That's right.
started. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man. Until next time.
Always a pleasure, Steve.
Thank you.
Man, that was a fun episode. What stood out to you?
Yeah, Steve just gets it. Like, he's always had his finger on the pulse. He's always been looking at what's next. I mean, even back when he was an A&R at Dimmock Records, he was early to Block Party. He signed them. Like, he's always been focused on what's next. He's always had that A&R ear. It's cool to see him apply it to the space. Like he said, we're still in the preseason. Everyone's going to be a part of Web3. I just love to see him going super hard in the paint on it, like he does with everything he does. But as someone who wears a lot of different hats and has a lot of different interest areas, there's so much that goes into what the Steve Aoki brand is. To see him be able to tie it all together with Aokiverse makes a lot of sense, and that's, I think, really exciting as a precedent for creators.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of different musicians will follow suit with the model he brought to market with Aokiverse, and excited to see how he continues to reinvest into that community and just bring more utility, more value, more prosperity. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Until then, we out.